So I know the reason you probably clicked on this video is because you've run out of funds for ramen noodles and are now in search of an even cheaper solution. Digital noodles. Well, you guys are completely in luck. Today I'm going to show you exactly how I made these, and I'll also show you guys how I used ChatGPT to help me make part of the animation. So the first thing we have to do is make the bowl, because unless you're a sorcerer, you can't make noodles without having something to hold it. Also, remember to add a sun. Now, if you're anything like me, a real artiste, you want to really connect with your art. So go to your pantry and get out a bowl, and just admire it very quickly, for reference purposes, of course. Or just go on Pinterest and find something on there. Yeah, that's probably better than what I have in my house. Like, what the hell is this? Anyways, the bowl I made here was actually a bit too simple. It was literally just like a sphere cut in half, and I did some like not extrusion, I did some like proportional editing. So yeah, that was very fancy. And also the next step would be to make a simple texture for the bowl. I was a bit lazy here as well, because the noodles were supposed to be the main attraction of this project, if that's what you want to call it. Literally it's just using stepped interpolation with a noise texture, and what that lets us do is the places that are darker in the noise texture are going to be a darker brown, and the places that are lighter in the noise texture are going to be a more beige color. Now we need to add some sort of broth or liquid. So the way I do my liquid is by cascading them, meaning I reduce the transparency of the liquid and I just like stack them on top of each other, like it's the towers of Hanoi. This way, when we put objects in liquid, like this amazing cube right here, it will have the effect that the object is actually in water. And if you're wondering about the actual individual shader, it's very, very simple. You can adjust the transparency here, and also make sure you have the blending mode set to alpha blend, otherwise this might not work that well. Now with that done, it's time to make our pixelated noodles. I know this is the part that you guys have been anxiously awaiting most, so let's get into it. So you should first add a Bezier circle and scale it to be like this. You want the points to be something like this, where it's a little bit scaled on one side and wider on the other side. Now make a curved path object, and you can manipulate the points around, and basically what you want to do is in the geometry tab, set the bevel to object and select the circle that you made earlier. And what it's going to do is it's going to use the profile of that circle as what the width would be of the path object. So you can just play around with it like that. If you don't know how to scale it, it's Control A, I'm pretty sure. And you can also use Control T to tilt, because you don't want it to all be like flat, right? You want part of it to be wider, part of it to be thinner, part of it to be more rotated. I'm using proportional editing here, which is how I'm able to adjust like multiple points at the same time. But yeah, after that, now you can go crazy and just move your noodle around everywhere. Now for a really interesting part, which is the texture of the noodles. At its core, it's basically just a basic toon shader, but there's a really interesting part of it, which is the cosmic interception between the noodles and the broth. You see, when you put noodles in broth, it gets this orangey effect, like as you can see here. So we want to reproduce that effect, and the way we do it is by using a gradient. And so using that gradient, I made it more like orangey on the lower end of the noodles, and just like a regular golden color on the top of it. By the way, I know I'm flying over a lot of the info regarding the like shader creation in this video, but if you guys are looking for more in-depth, step-by-step tutorials, I'm pretty soon going to be doing just that. It'll be on my Patreon, and I'm going to teach you guys how to make animations like this with voiced step-by-step tutorials. Not only that, but it'll have a Discord server where you can ask me like literally anything you want about Blender in there. So even if you're a beginner, I'll be there to answer your questions and remove any of the, like the headache that is like learning this stuff. I'll show you like resources, stuff like that too, like whatever you want. These animations have gotten me like hundreds of thousands of likes on Instagram. In like the past like 3 months alone, I've gained like over 20,000 followers there. So yeah, this stuff is like really cool to learn and use. A lot of people do like it. And also in addition to that, you'll also get free access to my Whimsy Armature add-on, which lets you add wind to armatures. And you'll also get access to my Blender Anime Oceans add-on. That a lot of people like that one. Those are usually paid add-ons, but for you guys who join the Patreon, I'll be giving you them for free. But yeah, this is literally going to be like one of the most insane offers in the Blender space. So if you're into this like Blender anime type of stuff, take advantage, because I don't know what better offer I could possibly make. But anyways, back to the video. So what you're going to want to do now is duplicate these noodles around a lot and adjust them as you like, so it isn't the same clump over and over again. Otherwise it'll look like these squares before you boil them, which isn't very good unless you like gnawing on them, which I know some of you guys probably do. But now that we've made the noodle, it is time for the next step in the ramen creation process. We're going to add the egg. But honestly, it's not too difficult to do these. Thinking back to what I did, it's literally just what I'm demonstrating here. You take a sphere, you cut half of it, and using the loop tools add-on, which I didn't have it installed at the time, you can just see me installing it here. It's a free add-on that comes with Blender called Loop Tools, and what this lets you do is if you right click on a group of vertices, you can change it into a circle. So that's what I did here, and then I just cut that part off, and that's basically how I got the egg and the egg yolk. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I personally prefer the egg yolk over the the egg white. That's probably gonna alienate some people, but hey, what can I say? I just enjoy consuming that viscous yellow nectar. So the way I did the yolk was literally just texture painting, right? So as you can see, like I'm demonstrating here what it looks like. It's literally just like a circular gradient that I used with like a darker color on the inside and a brighter yellow on the outside. And then I also had like these specular effects. So yeah, I recommend you guys do that too. Now for the more bland part, which is the egg white. So for this part, it's literally just a basic toon shader, but the catch here is I did use a gradient, and what this gradient does is it makes it a bit like darker on the outsides and brighter on the insides, so that's what I used for that. Now for the steak or meat or whatever this is, to be honest, I was going for steak, but like in the end I don't even know like what it looks like. There's something about like the texture of steak that makes it more difficult. If you use like texture painting, it's not that bad, but if you want to make something that's procedural like this with nodes, it's just a bit like weird, because honestly it ended up looking like the one from Minecraft, which I guess is a W. But yeah, the steak model itself looked like this, very simple, literally just like a trapezoid looking thing. So I then added a displacement modifier and set it to clouds texture and set the coordinates to object. I used an empty as the object, and this way I was able to scale the empty in a way that the steak looked like this. It had these like striations. For the coloring, I used a wave texture that lets you change the streaks dynamically, and you can also adjust how jittery it is and how blurry it is as well. While making this, I tried adding these black charcoal bits here in an act of desperation to try and sell the effect better, that like, hey, this is a steak. And with that being done, most of the harder parts of this project are done. If you've made it this far, I salute you. You must really like noodles, and there's no shame in that. The next parts are very simple, so I'm only going to go over them briefly. The corn here is a very simple model, it just looks like this. Shader is once again just a basic toon shader, but I did do like the orange thing again, where it gets more orange like as it goes deeper into the broth, and it's more of like a normal yellow color at the top. So you can just see me playing around with that here. I use another gradient. And if you guys want to see a more detailed explanation of any of the shaders I made in this video in depth, you could join the Patreon if it's out, and just ask me about it in Discord. I'd be more than happy to explain all of it to you. I also added these leaf-like objects, which are completely flat, but I added a solidify modifier to it so that it becomes a bit more thick. I actually used a picture from Pexels while modeling this, like as a reference, so that I can make the leaves like more realistic. I then sprinkled some sesame seeds, which were literally just like a manipulated sphere. And last and also least, I guess, to be honest, because this is not very interesting, but I added these like onion and green cylindrical things here. To be honest, I just like found it in one of the reference images that I was using and decided like, why the hell not just add it. But yeah, so I ended up adding those things, and after that I was basically done. It was just time to like animate everything after that. Oh, and also for the Steam objects you see here in the back, it would take way too long for me to explain all of it here in this video, so if you guys want like an in-depth tutorial on that like for another video, just let me know in the comments. But it's pretty cool. You can just duplicate them around here like cards and do whatever, and they just keep on animating into eternity. They are your animation slaves basically that I have created for you. So if you download the file, you can just get them, use them in your scene if you want. And now for a really interesting part. So to make all of the objects float, I actually used ChatGPT to help me here. So here's a short that I made before that completely explains this process. Here's how ChatGPT helped me make this animation. So basically, after doing all of the modeling and texturing, I wanted to make all of the objects float. However, this would take a while to do for each and every object, so I needed something a lot faster. So I asked ChatGPT to write me a Python script that automatically added a randomized offset to all selected objects. What it gave me wasn't perfect, so I adjusted the Python a little bit. Now, when I run the script in Blender, it automatically makes everything float, and I don't have to sit there like a 13th century medieval scribe doing the same thing over and over again. So yeah, basically the way it works is if you keyframe the location of any object, you can basically make it go like up or down or left or right or whatever at just like a randomized offset. So like as you can see here, like with this cube, I'm doing it. I keyframe the location and then I just add like noise to the z-axis. And so basically what that lets me do is have this like buoyancy effect, like it's floating. And so basically I just like wrote a script that lets you do that for all of the objects, because you can imagine like doing this for every single object would be like a total pain. But that's it for me, guys. That's been this tutorial. Let me know what else you would like to see. Ciao.